The Presidential Precinct is committed to offering a regular program of virtual events that keep our network of young leaders engaged and inspired in their work. Our offerings are threefold, each enabling a unique level of personal engagement with facilitators and fellow network members. First, we have 2020 Talks. These are TED-style talks with equal amount of time for individual presentation and then participant questions. Next, Campfire Conversations are panel discussions reimagined, focused on sharing panelists' personal stories and their work, often across multiple regions of the world. Finally, network members can join us every other Wednesday for a regularly scheduled virtual cafe, an open space for casual conversation and networking on the Presidential Precinct Network. Based on your participation in any of these events, you will gain access to a specific cohort within the network for continued dialogue with the presenters and participants. More information on these virtual program formats and our evolving strategies during this COVID-19 season are available on our website, presidentialprecinct.org. Thanks again for joining us today. Don't forget to share your questions in the Q&A section and keep the conversation going beyond today's event on the Presidential Precinct Network. Now, on with the main presentation.
Welcome, everybody. It is so great to see you here today for our program on allies and gender equality. I'm Nancy Hopkins, Director of Programs here at the Presidential Precinct, and we have a great conversation planned for you today. We can't wait to dig into this important issue with our wonderful moderator and our two colleagues who are here with us today to contribute, and also can't wait to open it up for some dialogue toward the end of the conversation with our audience who's joined today. So really looking forward to that. We know this topic is of keen interest to all of the leaders in our network. And in fact, we actually planned it in response to some suggestions from network members that they would welcome attending an event on this topic. And we love that. So please keep the feedback coming. And we really want to make sure that we continue to offer content that is of high interest to everyone in our network. So for today's program, I am delighted to be joined by three really committed women's empowerment champions who are deeply engaged in the practice of incorporating and mainstreaming men and boys into the push for gender equality in their countries and beyond. First, I would love to introduce you to Ms. Mbedi Smallwood Gizzi from Liberia. Mbeti is the founding executive director of the Foundation for the Advancement of Girls. And this organization mobilizes a cadre of dedicated volunteers to provide a range of support for low-income teen girls, including educational and economic empowerment opportunities, as well as health services and mentoring support. And Betty is a trained social worker, and she's a member of the Social Work Association of Liberia. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you.
I'm also excited to welcome Mr. Laith Abu Taleb to this conversation as well. Laith is from Jordan, and he's the founding and managing director of He for She Jordan. He for She is a fantastic global solidarity movement that was initiated by the United Nations, and it's a global movement for the advancement of gender equality. Through his branch of He for She, Laith has mobilized over 500 volunteers around this topic, making it the largest and most active branch of He for She in the entire region. And Laith is also an accomplished entrepreneur who runs a paper arts company called Origami. And I had the pleasure of spending time with both Mbeti and Laith here in Charlottesville back in January when they traveled together on a professional development program supported by the US State Department called IVLP, International Visitors Leaders Program. And their topic in the United States was volunteerism and civic engagement. And we really enjoyed having you folks here in Charlottesville with us. So we're enjoying also a bit of a reunion here today. Finally, I am pleased to introduce you all to Susan Piccaro Goings, who will serve as our moderator for the conversation. Susan's a passionate advocate for women's empowerment around the world. And over many years, she has used her professional experience as a former news anchor and a broadcaster to interview empowered women for a wonderful global initiative called Chain of Confidence. She has had deep conversations with women from more than 30 countries through this effort, and they've really opened their hearts and their lives and their stories to Susan, stories of triumph and inspiration. Through their foundation, Susan and her lovely husband, Rick Goings, provide financial resources for college scholarships and youth development programs for at-risk youth around the world. And they are recent founders of a really neat initiative that I encourage you to check out online called the World Federation of Youth Clubs, which is a new nonprofit that facilitates the education and training of young people through country-based clubs around the world. So welcome, everybody. Just a reminder about the format of the program. We'll do about 30 minutes of conversation moderated by Susan, and then we'd love to leave around 15 minutes at the end for engagement with you, our audience members. So be sure to post any questions you have in the chat. I'll pull out questions and combine some questions and make sure you get to hear from our panelists on those. And I know our colleagues will really enjoy hearing from you. So welcome everyone again, and I'll hand things over to Susan to get our conversation going.
Thank you, Nancy, for really kind introductions. Greatly appreciated. The subject of equality, especially gender equality, has always been something that I've been keenly aware of. So even since I was a little girl, going back to when my brother would ask me to make him a sandwich, and I would say, "You can make it as well as I can, you make it yourself." And I don't know why I was like that, but I was very aware of it. My first job at a television station, I wanted to be an account executive. And for those of you who don't know what that is, when you're watching television and you see a commercial, somebody has sold that slot of airtime. And that was what I wanted to do. That person's called an account executive. And I was told I couldn't get that job because I was a, quote, girl. More than once I was told that. I eventually offered to work for free, which got my foot in the door, so to speak. And that's how my career got started. At that time, that was in 1976. And at that time, there was less than 1% of the women in the United States who had top leadership positions. Now, 44 years later, sadly, it's only a little over 20%. So we haven't made great progress here in the United States. And I'm hoping to hear from Nabeti in Liberia and Laith in Jordan that they've done better than we have. And I know we have guests today from 20 different countries represented, and I would love to hear during Q&A any suggestions that you have how we can move forward. Laith, I want to start with you. I'm familiar with the He for She program because when the United Nations started that program, my husband Rick, who Nancy referred to before, was he was the chairman and CEO of Tupperware Brands at the time, and he was one of their corporate leaders who initiated that program. So how did you get involved? And I am thrilled to hear that you're still doing this in Jordan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nancy and Susan, for the introduction and for hosting us here. I'm glad to share my story and our work in He for She in Jordan, since we are working on gender equality in the Middle East. And it was really tough and hard to start a gender equality movement to empower women and to empower men and boys also to stand on the right side of history. My story started, I'm a big fan of Emma Watson, who played the role of Hermione in Harry Potter. So I was following her on Instagram, and while I was scrolling down on Instagram, I saw the logo of He for She. And my I finished my bachelor degree in genetics. So I directly knew when I saw the He for She logo, it's the male and female sign together. So that made me more cautious to know more about the move, about this logo and about the He for She. So I did my own research on Google, and I discovered He for She. It's a solidarity movement for gender equality that inviting men and boys around the world to stand on the right side of history to support women's rights back 2014. And so I went to heforshe.org. I signed up my commitment, and I was lucky that I was one of the first 500,000 men around the world who joined the movement. So after I took a screenshot for this and I shared it on Facebook using the hashtag He4She. So at the same day, I remember the UN Women representative here in Jordan contacted me on Facebook and told me, what do you know about He4She? I think he saw the post from the hashtag. So I told him everything that I know about the movement and that I'm really passionate about gender equality. So from here, he invited me to apply for the internship program that the UN Women have here in Jordan. So I applied, I passed all the exams, and I applied all my papers and certificate, and I started officially working with the UN Women as an intern to coordinate the movement, the he for she movement in Jordan. When I started, we had only around, yeah.
Laith, what are some of the specific things that you're able to do with that program in Jordan?
With the internship, do you mean? Or yeah.
He for she, what exactly do they do to help women in Jordan, and how do they encourage men to get involved in helping women?
Yeah, we started like targeting the university students, since like 85% from the Jordanian population, it's youth. So we started targeting them to get them involved in the conversation, to tell them more about gender equality and about the difference between gender equality and sex equality. Because since we are working in Jordan, and a lot of people came to us from the religion perspective and told us that there is no sex equality in the holy book and in these things. So we start like educating them more about the difference between sex equality and gender equality. And we told them that we are talking about gender equality. What we want is simply to break down the stereotypes around us, to give an equal opportunity for everyone, regardless the gender. So the first step is to get them involved on the conversation, to make like awareness campaigns, to tell them more about gender equality and what we mean in this. Because if you use, for example, Google Translate and both sex equality and gender equality in Arabic, it will gives you the same meaning. And unfortunately, all the UN Women documents in Arabic use the same translation for gender and sex in Arabic. So it was really hard and tough to raise awareness about the difference between gender and sex to start the movement. So the first thing that we did to engage more men and boys, to tell them more about the difference between sex and gender.
Okay, and so that's really, you've had to overcome social and religious
yes,
issues in order to move women forward and to make men aware of the difference between those two definitions. In the early 1970s, I was a tour guide at Disney World, and I happened to meet your King Hussein and his family. And that was also the same year that women in Jordan were allowed to vote for the first time. They gained voting rights. Have you seen a big difference since then? I mean, I know you're very young, and I think my sons are about your age, and I think that they're much more aware of gender equality, and it's just a given to them. And you seem about like the same way. So it's reassuring. You're in a totally different part of the world from where we are, but it sounds like the same thing is happening there.
Yeah, if I compare it when we launched the movement in Jordan in 2015, when you compare it like in 2015 till now, there is a huge difference. Like, for example, the challenges that we faced at the beginning of the launching of the movement, when people start talking to us about the religion, about the culture, about the traditions, about these things, it was like a huge challenges for us, the bigger challenges for us to start the movement. But now we don't hear anything about that. For example, I got bullied at my university when I started working on this, and it was really tough for me on the personal level, like to talk about gender equality, to speak up as a man about gender equality and women rights. Because when we started the movement, it wasn't about gender equality in general. It was only about women's rights and women empowerment. The year after, they changed the whole movement and it became a gender equality movement in general. So it was really difficult for me on the personal level to talk about it. But when I compare 2015 with now there is a huge difference. Now they are more educated about the gender equality. They are looking for gender equality, and they are looking for a ways like to, for example, for the families to get their daughters involved on the social work. They are trying to find like an opportunities to send their daughters to the universities. When you compare it back, and when you see like from 2015 till now, it's only 5 years, and we saw this huge difference, like on my clothes, on this small scale and small level. We started the movement in Jordan, and now we have it he for she Saudi Arabia, for example. He for she Palestine, he for she Tunisia, Lebanon, Egypt. So it's become more like it's already a global movement, but in the Middle East, it's become from he for she Jordan to a global movement.
So you set a great example, and I think it has also helped from the top because you have King Abdullah and Queen Rania, and they have been very vocal, both of them, which has been nice, or at least
Exactly.
what I have seen. When we go to the World Economic Forum, I've seen them both speak about this subject. And it's wonderful to see that it's now going and flowing over into some of the other Middle East countries. And Betty, you have a different situation in Liberia, but your country is the first African country to elect a female president. And can you tell me the impact that might have had, hopefully, on gender equality?
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Nancy. Upon the election of Madam Sirleaf, are you hearing me?
Yes, great.
Okay. So I think after she was elected, a lot of women, a lot of young girls found their voice. They knew exactly what they wanted to become. They knew exactly where they want to go. And so women and girls were able to step out of their comfort zones. Women and girls were able to step out of those places that they were seen as slaves and make progress. So Madam Sirleaf being elected is a huge bridge towards women's empowerment in Liberia.
When she was elected, you were coming out of a long 14 years of a civil war, and you lost a couple of 100,000 people during that war, but it just ended in 2003, so it's pretty recent. And she was only able to serve 2 terms, just like here in the United States, our president can only serve 2 terms. And what has happened since she left and a man has gotten into power, men have taken over power? Is it still the same? Do you see movement forward, or have there been changes?
Interestingly, there have been some ups and downs since this new government, especially a male, but with the power that women in Liberia has found their voice. Women are now standing up to the stereotypes and the status quo, and they are saying, regardless of we having a male leader, we want our voice to continue to be sounded so that other women can be able to join this. So even though it's a hauling and pulling time for us here, but women are not backing down. Women are standing up, and they are the most interesting part about it, women are now coming together with a force. You know, there is so much power in unity. So when you are together, you are able to break, much barriers than when you are apart. So now that women are standing together with one voice, despite governments not seeing the need to have more women included, but yet and still we are pressing forward so that women can be included in everything.
Well, but what are some of the biggest challenges? I know that women did gather together, which is one way that she was elected, because the women were very clever about voting and kind of suppressing the men's votes so that she got elected. It was very smart. It was something for the rest of the world to learn from. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you see girls and women facing today regarding equality?
One of the biggest challenges I see, especially in my country, Liberia, women and girls are still seen as that they can't make it. They are now warfare to be, to represent, to stand out. Women and girls are still seen as just housewives, caretakers for babies. And in our towns, in our villages, women and girls are still not having the opportunity like other girls in other countries to go to school. So that they do not have access to proper education, hygiene care that would enable them to be bold and stand up, because as you know, education is a great means that women can be able to stand up and talk for their rights. If they are not educated, they will continue to be trampled on. So there are still many challenges, but I just want to stress on the fact that women and girls in rural communities in my country do not still have enough access to go to school and learn and be able to use their own voice.
are there efforts to get men involved and to educate boys so that the younger generation is learning to be more respectful of women and more inclusive of women and girls?
Yes, there are efforts being made, and amazingly, we have a youthful population here. So now that the young boys, the young men, and are getting involved with gender equality, they are becoming more sensitive. They are, they are beginning to unlearn some things that they have learned through maybe history or through their parents. So many boys, are becoming vocal, especially when it comes to the issue of women rights.
Okay. Thank you so much, Betty. Laith, I want to ask you, you're a man, obviously. How have people in your country and Jordan looked at you since you've gotten involved in gender equality, especially a program like He for She? How have people treated you differently? Have you gotten any pushback from some men or who don't like that you're doing this?
Yeah, actually, the first question that I got from every organization or every youth club that I try to approach to get them on board with us is, you are a man. Why you are talking about women rights and gender equality? You have your rights. You are allowed to do anything. Why you do care about the other? As Betty said, a lot of people, they think like her place is home, to feed the babies, to clean the home, to cook, blah 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 blah, which is not for me. But so the first question I said that this woman, she's my mother, she's my sister, she's my aunt, and maybe in the future she could be my wife, my daughter. So we need like to live in a community that is lack of stereotyping, that always put these women and girls in this small bottle and limit them. You are not allowed to go outside the country. You are not allowed sometimes to go outside your city to study at university. You are not allowed to go outside to work. You are not allowed to stay outside late at night. So these, all the stereotypes that I see around of me, it's annoying me, that because I want to live an equal opportunity. And when I give a hand for these women and girls, in return, they will give a hand for me, because I will be supporting my mom. So if she get empowered, that will benefit my family. And I will be supporting all the girls around me. So, and somehow that will benefit me somehow, like to empower the whole community. So it's like a formula that we can't put any part of it like outside of this equation. So we need to support everyone in this. It was difficult at the beginning, like to speak up as a man, because as I told you at the beginning of my speech, that a lot of people, they don't know about the difference between sex and gender. And I will take this opportunity to, in 15 seconds, to tell everyone here what is the difference between sex and gender. When we talk about sex, we are talking about the biological parts in our bodies. So we can recognize this as a female and male through the body parts that we can see through our eyes. So this is sex. And when we are talking about gender, we are talking about the thing that we feel inside. So we are talking about man, woman, and others. So there is a huge difference between them. The male and females and intersex, they are as they are because it's related to the biological part. But we are not allowed to limit these males and females in these small cycles because of the culture, for example, or because of the religion, because everyone born free to do whatever they want unless they are not hurting and crossing the limits. So it's simply about that. But now, as I told you, most of the people who are on board with us, they are males who are trying like to speak up.
It sounds like you have a great mom and that she taught you well and that you respect her and you want her to have equal rights to other women. One of the things that was really helpful on my travels around the world with my husband for Tupperware, because there are 3 million women around the world, many of them in Muslim countries. And he would invite the husbands of the women to come to meetings and to show them and to include them and to show them what their wife is doing. And ultimately, some of them ended up working side by side with her. And at the very least, they began being supportive and they weren't afraid of her success. And that is really important to educate the men. And I know, and Betty was talking about education in general, but it's also important to educate the men. And we do have our differences, but we also have a lot in common. Men and are capable of doing the same jobs, even though we are different. But we need to somehow, what is the best way? And this goes out to either one of you, and Betty or Laith. What is the best way, do you think, to emphasize the attributes that a woman might have that a man doesn't have, to help them get jobs, to help them in the workplace? Either one of you.
Can you go over the question?
Yeah. And Betty, what is something, how can we accentuate, I mean, men and women are different, right? Mm-hmm. Even women and women are different. But women do have some innate things. Like, I think we can multitask. We are also able to understand complexity sometimes, I think, better than men. There are obviously exceptions, but what is some way that we can help men understand that women can benefit them, women can enhance what they're doing? Have you guys focused on that, and how to get men to be more involved and really be mentors? And
for me, I think one way is through awareness, engagements, reaching out to, for my organization, what we do, even though our focus is on girls, but we work with boys through schools. So it's important that if you could include boys in, some way, through some of the mentoring sections, and be able to teach them, because it's possible that they learn new things that they do not know, that women are capable of, supporting you. They are capable of, they have strengths. Women do have strengths, and then you can count on them. They too, can make gains. So I think education plays a major role. When these boys or these young men are given awareness, are educated about the strength of women, they are able to, see each other as team players and work for the betterment of, the country.
That is. Go ahead.
Yeah. For us, one of the activities that we are doing is we are talking with the private sectors. We are talking with the CEOs of these private sectors, and we are trying to get them on board with us to have like 50-50 people in this company. Like, we tried also to highlight the stories of the success women here. We have there is, for example, one of the people that, for me personally, that I get inspired a lot of. Her name is Mary Nazdal. She's the founder of the Landmark Hotel here in Jordan. So we always talking about her story in front of these people, like how she's as a woman trying like to deal and with her own business. She have a lot of social work. So we are trying to have such stories and to share it on media, for example. So these people, they get inspired, and they break this stereotype that they have in mind, and to accept like to work with the other gender or the other sex.
And that lets young girls know, when they see her, they know that that's a possibility in their country, that they can accomplish something that maybe they aren't taught at home or in school that they are capable of doing. I think we need to come up with new and better ways to engage men. And like you're saying, getting 50% of a workforce at a company to be female is great, but we need women in leadership roles within those companies, not just lower level jobs. And that's one thing that we haven't done a great job here in the United States, but we are moving in that direction. It's just a really slow process. Do you both feel the same way?
To add to what Late said, for me in my country, I feel so much that men, they know and they understand the kind of strength that women has. They know that women are movers, they are shakers, they are able to do things. So because of tradition and cultures, most of these men tend to like ride on tradition, even though they have gone to school, they are educated, they are riding on tradition to still hold back women and girls from, reaching their full potential. But interestingly, the tables are turning here because women are no longer waiting to have a seat at the table. They are no longer waiting to have that job, maybe at the mansion or at the state department. Women are now creating jobs. Women are now, stepping out to be their own entrepreneurs. Women are now giving back. Women are now building clinics and hospitals. So I think the tables are turning here, and men are becoming to realize the strength that women has in my country.
And also what we've experienced is that men think of me and women think of we.
Exactly.
This is the stereotyping.
They're more inclusive, and if they are successful, they pass that on to their children. Their children become educated, have a better life, and then that goes out into the community. And I mean, we've seen it over and over again around the world, and it's a fascinating topic. And Nancy, I know that we are getting some questions from some of our viewers. Should we address some of those?
That would be great. I'm glad you asked. I was just looking through this list, actually, of some really great questions for our panelists. So.
And thank you, and Betty and Leif, so far for being so open and sharing your experiences.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great. So maybe, actually, it would be interesting, I think, to hear a little bit more, and Betty, about the work of your foundation. I saw that someone is wondering, how are women and girls in rural areas in Liberia being impacted by COVID? Are you seeing a differentiated impact on women and men and boys and girls? And what are you all up to meet some special needs during this really difficult time?
Although you guys have done quite well with COVID, much better than we have in the United States.
Exactly. Though we are doing quite well with COVID, but our country is gradually coming out from things that we have gone through. And so the impact of COVID is great, especially on our education, on our health sector, because those women and girls and boys in the rural communities do not have access to good health care. They do not have access to internet where they can sit at home and their kids get online and learn those things. So for that reason, for about 8 to 9 months, those kids have been cut off. They are not learning. Nothing is happening for them. Women are like literally giving birth in their villages and their towns because they do not have access to hospitals. Even if they go to the hospitals, the distance travel is so overwhelming. Some of them will have to give birth on the road. Some women will have to die in the process. So even though the impact of COVID is not huge here, but it has brought a major setback to our country, especially our economy. So I see the different challenges, especially as regards health and education.
Your challenges are different from other countries, I'm sure, although there are countries suffering in exactly the same way, particularly a lot of African countries, I know. But your resilience, I'm sure, you guys are powerful, and
yes,
I'm sure you're figuring it out. Has the government done anything to help with education and the lack of internet for students in rural areas?
Let me just say no. For students in rural areas, the government have done nothing. So what I see that has happened over the last months, local CSOs and NGOs have been able to step out. For example, my organization, we work in some rural areas. So we had to improvise and make sure that these kids who do not have access to health care are being cared for, in which we take a team of health workers there and see how they can provide screening and provide medication. We also find a way to compile lessons for these kids, hand them out. And then we have the teachers, we get the teachers involved, like the work I do, I get the school involved and be able to do a checkup on these children, because honestly, our government is doing nothing as regards education in the rural communities since COVID hit us.
Well, I'm very sad to hear that, but I am glad, and these kids are very fortunate that they have you to help them. And I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nancy, next question.
Sure. Susan, our next question is about, I think it's from a colleague at Rollins, actually, down in Florida. And it's about entrepreneurship and the links between women and girls empowerment and entrepreneurship, and loving to hear from our speakers about any work they're doing in this regard.
Leif?
Yeah, an example for that, my co-founder at Waragami, she's a female, and she's one of the SDGs advocates here in Jordan. In Jordan, we have a lot of opportunities only for women, like women funds, like to give like an opportunity for women to apply for this funds, to have their own business, to try like to give something in the community, to lead something, like to inspire other women and girls. There is a lot of projects that we have, and what we do is we are trying to empower these women to be able to apply for these projects by giving them like a lot of courses, like for example, how to sell yourself in 30 seconds, communication skills, time management, how to manage a company, something about the financial side of the company, about the legal frame, and a lot of things. So our work is what we are trying to do is to empower these women to be able to apply and take these funds. Our government, they are trying to support us by having these funds. So we are not worried about like after training them to find a fund for them. So they can simply apply for these projects that is set up only for females.
Well, we happen to sponsor a program called Global Links at Rollins College, where the person who submitted that question, where they are from, and which is my alma mater. And you should have some of these women check it out. Global Links, go to the website, because what they do is train women. They bring women from other countries, obviously pre-COVID, and that will hopefully start up again once that people are able to travel. But they bring women. We've had women from starting with India and several different countries now, and train them to be entrepreneurs, and then to go back to their countries and train others. And it's been a really successful, it's a small program, but it's been a successful program that I would like to see expanded. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that you are doing that. So thanks for that. Nancy?
Yeah.
And Betty, I didn't know if there were things you wanted to comment on the issue of entrepreneurship. I know that you're doing a lot on economic empowerment as well. So I'll kick that to you, and then I'll move on maybe.
Yeah, so for us, what we do is, my organization, we try to give girls skills, especially adolescent girls. We give them skills, and then after they have completed set amount of skills, they are able to now try on their own. They are able to now get involved, use their hands, make those things that they have learned, and sell them to be able to raise income. But amazingly, I think I want to add, I think the idea of entrepreneurship has been in our nature in this country as women, because back in the days, we had our grandmothers, our mothers who were selling, groceries to be able to help and contribute, even though they weren't schooled properly in what entrepreneurship is. But they were, they were able to contribute, they were able to give back, they were able to feed their families. Amazingly, now that we have women and young women and girls who have gone to school and obtained degrees and trainings in entrepreneurship, they are now coming together and raising, opening businesses. They are coming together and starting up their own companies, and they are helping a lot of other young women to be able to start up. And some of them are even helping other women in rural areas with trainings to be able to start up their own businesses. So I think gradually we are getting there.
And that's awesome. And if you look around the world, often it is the woman in the household who is the breadwinner. She may not get the recognition for it, but she's the one that's supporting the family, and often doing exactly what you said by selling, whether it's a product or groceries, or maybe she has a cow that she can sell the milk, or she's growing fruits and vegetables. But that's exact, and that is an entrepreneur. You're exactly right.
Yes.
So that's wonderful.
This next question builds on a topic that we've already covered, but it would be great, I think, to dig into it a little more. Also, I think from a colleague from Rollins, and it's about allyship in the workplace. And this colleague is talking about the environment in Mexico. You know, how can we all create a more equal environment in our workplaces? What are some strategies for allyship, especially in places or sectors where the socio-cultural norms are far from equal?
Lee?
Yeah, actually, I have been in Mexico. We have done the international He for She meeting last year. It was in Mexico. And it was really nice to get to know more about the gender ecosystem in Mexico and what is the challenges they have. Because in our minds, it's always like the other countries, it's better than us. So it's really nice when we hear like we are all on the same page and all of us need the same things. And even in the workspace, in the schools and universities at home, etc. It's something like could help us more to put our hands together. There is a really nice toolkit that we have at He for She. I can share it with you later. I can share it with Nancy so you can share it. It's the He for She toolkit that we can use in the workspace. We can start a lot of small things that we can have in our workspace to start like a step by step to have a gender friendly environment in the workspace. Starting from the bathroom, for example, to have it a gender neutral, to stop using the color pink or blue in our ads and our decoration materials. It's something really basic and simple. But when we are talking about gender equality, we are talking about something that we have inside in our mind. So if we want like to change something, we need to start with these small details, like to train ourselves day by day, how to break down the stereotypes that we have by starting with these small details. On like, for example, when we want to talk about the decision-making level, it's something like difficult to talk about Mexico or about any other countries because the situation it's totally different. But we can always launch like social media campaigns. So in that way, we will be able to reach everyone, even they are on the top or on the bottom, by launching like a social media campaign.
But when you were in Mexico, did you notice any differences between their program and its effectiveness or the challenges that they have?
Yeah, actually, for example, here in Jordan, the most topic that we used to talk about is the education, and there it was something about the politics and work. For example, we talked more about the payment gap, about these things, which is something that we didn't talk about. We don't talk about here in Jordan. So it's really nice to be more open when you know more about the situation in the other countries, and learning more about the positive side that they have in gender equality, and try to implement this in your country and do the opposite by moving the positive side we have to implement it there. It's something really nice. Yeah, I saw the difference, especially when I saw like a lot of girls, they are on board with us. Are really well-educated girls that they have a really good education. They work at the same time. I met a lady that studied at university, and at the same time she have her own business. So it was really nice to hear and see this a huge difference, and try to implement that in my country.
Because different countries are in different places when it comes to gender equality. Some are more advanced than others, and you can see what problems or issues you may have going forward, or how they solve some of the same problems that you're dealing with right now. And Betty, when you were here in the United States earlier this year, you and Laith were both here in Virginia. What did you notice anything? What impact did that trip have on you regarding gender equality? And Betty, we can't hear you. I think your audio.
Can you unmute?
Unmute it?
Hello, are you hearing me?
There we go. Yes, great.
Okay, so what I noticed from most of the trainings we went to in the US, January, I saw women were inclusive. Women were not at the back. women were left to do what they know to do best. And I didn't see it as a struggle for women to get jobs in the US, especially when you have the education, you are educated, and you can do the job. From what I observe, I do not see it as a struggle, unlike my country, where women here will go to school and you are educated, and it's a struggle to get the job. I don't know, but for us here, even though it's a struggle for us to get the job, the women, and then we are breaking down barriers, we are still trying to, be effective and do it. But the issue of sexual and gender-based violence is also here. So sometimes it breaks the women to the point that they do not want to go back to these offices to work because they will be harassed, maybe by a male boss, or maybe before they are given this job, they will be harassed. And so I saw the difference when I was in the US. I saw that women, can access jobs easily compared to here.
Are women being taught how to deal with that harassment?
Oh, yes. So now there are systems being set up for whistleblowing that women can blow whistle, and report such, especially that even if you are not qualified, systems can be able to absorb you and train you to do what they want you to do, because it's obvious that you go to school for something and then you find your purpose and then you are off to another road, and then there's a struggle in between. But now systems are being set up where whistleblowing can be done and women can report such cases, and there are people, yes, who have been fired because of harassment and stuff like that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Keep moving in that direction.
Thank you.
Don't ever give up. Nancy?
So Susan, the last question that we have in our Q&A, is about the question of collaboration. And I think it's an interesting one, probably for both of our panelists. Someone wants to know, Laith, what sort of collaboration you're doing with other branches of He4She across the Middle East? What does that network look like and collaboration? And I'm sure that, Betty, you probably have some really interesting collaborations going on with some like-minded organizations as well. So question about collaboration for extending the impact.
Yeah, mainly we are working under 5 categories here in He4She. The He4She Debate Club, we are using the debate as a tool to talk about what we are with and what we are against, to share everything from different perspectives in front of everyone, and we let them to judge what is the best scenario and why we are talking about gender equality. The He4She Public Speaking, we are hosting a speaker to talk more about the issues in their countries so we can collaborate together. The He4She Languages Club, we are trying Arabic, it's our mother language here in Jordan. So we are trying to empower the youth and women and boys by teaching them different languages, English, French, Spanish, etc. The He4She Art Club and the He4She Theater Club, we are using the art and theater as a tool to talk more about gender equality. So through these 5 clubs, we were able to collaborate with many different people from many different countries. For example, when we have the debate activity, we host a team from Jordan and the other team from, for example, Bahrain or from Oman. When we want to host the public speaking activities, we host like a speaker from Mexico or from France. When we are talking about the art and theater, and one of the recent activities that we had a collaboration with an organization. It's named the Womanity Foundation from Lebanon, and they launched a show that talk about the stereotyping in Arabic. So we had a collaboration with them to start the live streaming within our volunteers network here in Jordan. So, and during COVID, it was a really nice opportunity for us to have more collaboration with people. So since we moved all of our work online, even now, for example, now we are getting ready for the university tour here in Jordan, and it's one of the biggest activities for He4She that we have a tour to visit different universities on the ground. But now, because of the situation, we are moving this into a virtual university tour. So we are visiting different universities.
Are you having these debates virtually between countries?
Yes, between countries, and we have it here via Zoom. And our strategy is to record all of these debates and publish it on YouTube so anyone can watch these debates, because our debates, when it's sometimes about politics, it's sometimes about work, education, identity, it's about many different things. So we can try as much as we can to talk about all the categories that we have in our communities.
Fabulous. How about you, and Betty?
I am a fan of collaborations because I believe that the impact cannot come through one person. So I'm always open up for collaborations, especially when regards to women and girls empowerment, health, especially reaching those hard to reach communities. I look out for collaboration. So I'm glad here in my country that local NGOs and CSOs are coming together, to collaborate and help meet the needs and face those challenges together. So I'm always open up for good collaborations.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Nancy?
Great. I think we have time for one last question. I see we have one in the chat and one in the Q&A, so I'm going to try to combine it. And maybe it's a kind of a forward-looking place to think about wrapping up. I mean, it's really a question about, what do you think is the biggest challenge in your country looking forward in terms of gender equality? If you could really put, the most effort behind one thing, what would that be? What's your, maybe I'll turn it to a positive question, like what's your greatest wish, for women's empowerment in each of your countries, something that you feel like would really, really flip things, really change things?
Oh, I want to say before they speak, here in the United States, I think for us, it's our vote, and that women need to get out to vote, which is exactly what happened in Liberia, which is why they got a candidate elected twice, because women got out to vote. And that's extremely important in every country, and for us here in the United States right now, especially. And Betty?
Yeah, and for me, my greatest wish is that women are included in policies, especially when it comes to being elected to the area of senators and representatives. We need more of them, so that the issue of gender-based violence, the issue of gender equality, so that policies on our books can be changed, so that policies can be rewritten, and that we all can work together for a better future of our generation.
But the only way to do that is to have females who have the ability
Yes.
to set that policy, or men
Yes.
that we know are supportive of women.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only way to do that. How about you, Leif?
One of the biggest challenges we have is we are afraid to get out of our comfort zone, because our families, they raise us as their families raise them, and we continue so on about this since like 100 years. So we are afraid to trust the change, and we are afraid to get out of our comfort zone. And we see this a lot when we are talking about the new ideas, about anything about the entrepreneurship. Because as Nibati said, all my parents, they got the entrepreneurship skills inside of them, and they got in new ideas, and they went to the market, to the street, to do a lot of things, but we weren't aware about the phrase of entrepreneurship. So we are afraid to try anything new and to hear from the young generation. I'm 26, so when I stand up in front of the decision making and try to tell them from my experience working on the ground, they are afraid to hear from me and to try the solutions that we give, because they are thinking only back from their desks. They never been on the ground. So we are afraid to go outside of our comfort zone and go to the field to hear from the real people, to hear about the real challenges that we have on the ground, because maybe they want to stay on this chair and they are afraid to give the opportunity and the chance for the new young generation.
And I've always hated to hear the phrase, but we've always done it this way. And because that means they're not open to change or they're afraid of change, which is okay. But people have to be willing to try something new in order to advance.
Yeah, we are in 2020, so it's the time. And I want to end my speech, and I started the movement from a quote that I heard from Emma Watson: "If not me, who? If not now, when?" And what I'm always saying for all the volunteers that we have, it's me and now. So there is no time. There is no time we have to say like it's tomorrow, it's tomorrow, it's tomorrow. No, it's me, and I can start now. I can start now by sharing a tweet on Twitter, or going to the street and raising my voice. I can start with myself and with my family. So anyone can start to make like a huge impact. So it's me and now.
I have to tell you, since you're an Emma Watson fan, we were actually with her. Rick was part of the panel when they launched He for She in Davos, Switzerland. And she's as lovely in person and as sincere as she comes across in her speaking about this issue.
Yeah, lucky you. It's one of the things that I have in my bucket list, that maybe I could meet her one day.
Oh, you will. If you keep going to these conferences, I bet you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you both and thank Nancy too. Was that our last question, Nancy?
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was just going to see, and Betty and Susan, that was a great final salvo from Laith. Susan and Betty, do you have any last words you'd like to offer our audience and our colleagues before I wrap us up today?
And Betty?
Let me say thanks to the Presidential Precinct for hosting us today. It is amazing. I would love to do this again. Thank you, Susan, for the questions. And let me also say congratulations to Liv. Being a champion of He for She is a great deal, especially from the area he's from. So let me say thumbs up. And I want to say to all those who's listening or watching, whatever you want to do, just do it. Get up, regardless how slow it will go. And with faith and prayers and hard work and determination, know that you will get there. Things and that I always post on my Instagram. I said change is gradual. Change is not instant. So don't sit there. Get up, leave your comfort zone, because there is so much out of your comfort zone. Thank you for hosting us, and love you all.
Love you too. And you did a great job, and nobody can top what she just said. It was perfect.
Thank you.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much, Susan and Betty and Laith, for sharing your time and your talents and your perspectives with us here today. It was really inspirational and also just super thought-provoking. This type of frank dialogue, I think, is exactly what we all need to move our countries forward. A couple of things stuck with me. Laith, you mentioned the power of storytelling to show powerful examples of women and girls who are going against gender norms and who are working to move their countries forward and their societies forward. I think that is really an important thing to show these examples of change. And then Betty, you said something in the beginning that stuck with me about the importance of unlearning. To be able to change these deeply held norms that we all have, men and women, we both have these, right? About gender roles, it does require that unlearning and that establishment of a growth mindset, right? That we can all change ways of doing and ways of thinking and ways of being to improve everything for everybody in our countries. So thank you for that. And again, to everyone who could join today, we're so happy to see you. We did record this webinar and we'll post it on our website. So be sure to check it out again if you want to refer back to it, or feel free to share it with others who you may think would be interested. And just a spoiler alert, we are hoping to schedule a second event on this topic. I'm hoping to rope Susan in again. Susan, if you'll indulge us, we'd love to have you back and to combine that with another special invited guest who will provide his perspectives, hopefully, on this topic as well. So it'll be fun to get a bit of a series going maybe on this topic, given the widespread interest. And we can always, of course, carry on this conversation for those of you who are members of our online presidential precinct network, continue the conversation on that platform. So great. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Nancy. It'd be my pleasure to be involved. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Be
Take
safe.
care, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye-bye.